you. Great. So just a little word of warning before we get started here. We have about a 90-minute tour with no restroom and a whole lot of trickling water. So if it's bad, inside it's worse. So get ready to do all of this bad feeling. He's looking around, he's not really sure where to go from here. As far as he can tell, both these directions lead deeper into the cave. He keeps tripping and falling. That fifth match doesn't last very long before it goes out, so he lights up the sixth. It doesn't last long either before he is plunged into the cave darkness. And cave darkness is as dark as it gets. There's nothing darker in the universe. Nice, there you are. The ones that are coming from the bottom then are the stalagmites. There's an easy kind of corny way of remembering that. Stalactites are the ones that hang tight. The stalagmites might grow up eventually water if it's falling. That's exactly what these are. It starts with rain coming down, hitting the soil on the surface, trickling down through into a chamber, a lot like this one. And started to be carved out in the past. You'll see all these little drops of water hanging off the ends of a lot of these stalactites. You'll see that? It takes an exceptional amount of time though for something like that to happen because we're dealing with soda water here. And obviously we do this like this because oftentimes those little things that we don't think about, those little damage that we can incur, they'll tend to last for much longer than we realize. 1937, the Civilian Conservation Corps carved out this tunnel, and it was done for protection of the cave because there was a path that went from that first room deeper inside, going out to another entrance all the time. And they'll fluctuate with the temperature outside. And so you start going up and up and up and up, and you're feeling less and less popcorn. Well, you should probably turn back because you're going the long way. You're going deeper into the cave. You're going into that end. Get back to where that popcorn is, and that could be your ticket out of there. Follow that airflow, you might just find your way back out. You have a big ball of string in your pack, a technique still used today. You roll that out from the entrance. When you run out of string, you have to turn back. And the advantage of that one, you can follow it out in the dark. If you bring in a stack of leaves from the outside, you're not going to find leaves naturally in here. You lay those out in a trail, that'll work too. Not today, you're not going to cause something like this, so don't worry. But ultimately, then, why do we care? Because, I mean, it's not going to change in the time that we're here today, and who cares what it looks like tomorrow, the next day, or 20 years from now, or 1,000 years from now. And it's an example of a living formation. It's a bacterial reef that lives in this cave. And it has an interesting property because it's a predator bacteria. It's not very picky about what it eats, and you'll find that's typical of the creatures down here. There's not a lot of food to go around. It's the life that exists is accustomed to eating pretty much anything it possibly can. So you take it off the wall and you rub it all over a wound. The bacteria that's in this stuff right here, well, it'll eat up all the disease-causing bacteria. So your wound might be all dirty and nasty and cut up and infected, and this will draw the infection. We actually have 155 animal species living inside this cave. Bears and big cats and things like that. But the critters that live in here, well, those 9 are the very best in the world, living in a 44-degree lightless environment that doesn't have a lot of food. And so we actually are surveying the surface right now to see if we can do a controlled burn, essentially simulate a forest fire to hopefully get us back on track. There's a lot of the broken stalactites, sure, but on top of that, in this room, we have a special concentration of all these signatures that were left behind in the 1800s. Where the first professor of geology at University of Oregon had a field trip.
Because it's embedded in it.
Yeah, it's embedded within. You have all this water on the surface here, which is basically taking up all these little minerals. There's actually growing rock over the top, so it's laminated essentially from us.
Definitely a no-no. The whole class
So
room
that's pretty much the first crop of geologists that Oregon ever had. So, as As you go down this staircase, I mean, if you want, you can kind of pretend to be an animal getting down here. Now, let's go.
Watch your hip.
Marble is a very, very dense, hard rock, and so passageways in marble tend to be very, very small, short, narrow, all like what we've been walking through. And so when it opens up like this, there generally has to be some extra factors to work in. You can actually tell approximately what the ratio is of water to time by looking at the shape of the formation. And so you have these stalactites here, which are very long and very narrow. Same with some of the stalagmites as well. And what that tells us is that this cave received a huge influx of water in a relatively short amount of time. Not by our standards, but by the cave's lifespan, just a drop in the bucket.
We generally get lost together.
And it's here that we see this really reddish rock. In fact, we have to build a 40-foot cliff to get to it for many years. We have one of the more pristine parts of the cave that we have left. This rock right here and redeposit it here, but in order for it to dissolve this rock, what still needs to be in the water? But this violent process of everything being shifted around, that big piece of rock, it comes off. You can take a core sample of any one of these rocks, and you can look at the inside, and you can see that it grows much like layers, rings on a tree. It grows in these layers that will actually change with the climate on the surface. 1931, they came across two caverns which were sealed off from the rest of the world. Well, first things first, David will emerge shortly. We should give him a hand for keeping us all alive today.
Very good job.
All right, he's gonna do the low crawl. Spider crawl? Spider crawl.